See, as I have been saying this thing quite often that I actually born and brought up in Nagpur slum, and particularly in North Nagpur, which is densely populated by scheduled castes who are Buddhist also. We call them Dalit Buddhists in academics. So in that environment, it was not new for me to know about the caste injustice out there and how atrocity are there again on our people, particularly on scheduled caste people across India. So when I was growing up, so actually it's a culture back there. The culture around Ambedkar, around Buddha, around Shahu Maharaj, around Phule, Savitribai Phule. So for me, when I came to this particularly, it was not new for me. That something called caste, whether it exists in even academic sphere or no. I had a kind of things, because when I was back there in Nagpur, my seniors, I used to go with them out, and do some programs. So they would also share how it operates in academic institution also. So when I came to this, frankly, I can say it was a very wonderful opportunity for me, and especially for a student like me who actually came from a lot of struggle, from let's say from remote areas and from slums and all of that. So we kind of initially believed in just focusing on our study, and we did that because we knew that we lacked in so many things. For instance, if for any upper class student, if speaking in the class is kind of a normal, but for us speaking in the class was a struggle, right? So we knew that we have a lot of things to grapple with. We knew that we have a lot of things to work on. So we did that. But we also used to realize one thing quite often, that in this institution, and it's not just about taste, but now if you see everywhere, in the classroom and outside also classroom, at a level of a discourse also, you would not find the discourse of, let's say, disadvantaged communities at a level where it should have been for such, after such a long time. So then we started with having conferences, having some small events around Ambedkar, around Shahu Maharaj, Savitribai Phule. And actually, when we started doing this thing, we realized that there is a section who for a long time, when we were not speaking, they were with us very nicely. But when we started doing this thing, suddenly we started realizing there is a section among students and also among faculties who do not like this, who pretends to be secular, who pretends to be very progressive, but internally they don't like it. And slowly, this line became very clear. That at the end, there were mostly ST, SC, OBC who started associating with these ideas and discourse. And at the end, and some few, let's say, liberal upper caste. But at the bigger level, mostly other upper caste, because teach mostly as that time also most of the upper castes would also be coming from the urban settings and from the good upper middle class families. So they started having some kind of discomfort around this question, and as I said, it was a surprise for me also, because when you come to the institution like Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and when you go to the classroom, everyone talks about, let's say, about social work, about welfare, about marginalized community. But what we realized when we started talking about marginalized community discourse, not them simply as a victim, but their independent autonomous discourse, then this discomfort we felt from other side. And not just from upper caste student, but also from the upper caste faculties. And that motivated me a lot. That institutions are not if you say that the institutions or the educational institutions, when you say they are meant to produce a knowledge, then I felt that what about our knowledge? Is it just a knowledge of those who have been creating a knowledge and they are saying this knowledge is applicable to everyone? Then I felt as a student, without doing an activism. And now when we say activism, it doesn't simply mean that we are going and saying, shouting the slogan. Activism for me also meant that how we create our independent discourse, how we create our independent knowledge, and more than that, how we create our independent space. And that also motivated me when I passed out from TIS and when I went to JNU. So when I started doing student activism, so not just me but other students also there in Babsa and other students from marginalized section, we really wanted to have our own independent autonomous space. And that was I must say that was one reason which kept let's say this energy in me to go with the student activism. Yeah. So I don't know much about ASA because when I was here there was no ASA. But I can talk about Babsa in JNU and the organization like Babsa there in other campuses. I see our student organization led by marginalized section students, they face a lot of challenges. On the one hand, administration is not with them. On the other hand, the faculty, their own faculties, those who believe in their ideology or come from their community, they are not very supportive. And third, they do not have any support from outside. Unlike a left student organization or right-wing student organization, like let's say ABVP or SFI, like this organization, they have support from their respective political parties and leaders. So they do not feel any crunch of, let's say, financial crunch to do some small or bigger activity. They do not face any kind of, let's say, the lack in the guidance and how they should do it. Okay, they have kind of people who advise them, and they do not even face the morals, lack of moral support. But organization like Babsa faced everything. I know that when I was leading Babsa as a student leader, I know that hardly we would get any support from any other faculty. There is 1-2 faculty would support us openly. As far as the resources are concerned, we would mobilize resources by our own self. We would give money from our scholarship. So there are many, like as I said, I came from a background where for me, knowing about caste or fighting against the caste was not new. And as I told you, it was a TIS which gave me like kind of this complete, let's say this clear sense that educational institutions are also divided. They are fine until you do not talk about your discourse, right? So as I told you. But when I went to JNU, it was much worse than TIS. Because in JNU, they would talk about revolution without talking about the people to whom they want to bring the revolution. Because when they used to say, working class, I used to ask them, who are working class in India? Is it the Brahmin is the working class in India? Is it Baniya is the working class? Is it so-called landowning caste is the working class? Who is the working class in India? So if you are talking about larger ST, because the working class is largely SC, ST, let's say a nomadic tribe and other marginalized communities. So if you are talking about that working class, what about their discourse? What about their icons? What about their ideal? What about their experiences and their aspiration? Right? So I guess that particular thing, I remember in JNU once, one of the comrades, while having a discussion, he said Baba Sahib was a colonial agent. Because he became a minister in colonial time, he negotiated. And that basically, and I thought, okay, this is something that one individual is talking about, like this. But when in JNU I, spent some good enough time, I realized that the upper caste has this shared belief. And right wing also would say the same thing, like, ABVP kind of organization. They would also say the same thing. Oh, he was not nationalist. He was he worked, he copied constitution from Western countries, all of this. And the left would say he was a colonial agent, he was an imperialist and all of that. Then that inspired me from inside that now this is a high time that we build our own independent discourse. And if you want to build your own independent discourse, you need to create a space. And to create a space, you need the student movement, student organization, which is basically which works to create this autonomous independent space in the university campus. So that was one incident. And later when we were busy in building our organization, we know that the Rohit Vemula incident happened. And from Rohit Vemula, again the things become very clear that these educational institutions are, when you assert yourself, they simply become a death chamber for you. When you question them, they simply become hostile towards you. And then from there, I was very clear that if the marginalized section student, if something happening against them, some injustice happening against them, so you cannot simply escape saying, okay, let it go. Now you have to fight back. But to fight back, then you also need the independent student movement. And that actually, JNU's experiences from this upper caste leftist comrade and these upper caste Hindutva-wadi forces in campus, and then Rohit Vemula incident, that all these things, I must say, inspired me to, or let's say to, kind of give us strength in that way to fight against the caste injustice. No, I believe it that when the student come to university or any other institution, education institution, I believe that the students are meant to study and do excellent in their academic life. Absolutely fine. But the question, the student activism question is not just about student. It's also about this educational institution. Why there is a student activism? Is it just because they want to do it for the sake of doing it? Or is it because there is something which basically pushes them to fight for themselves, right? So I believe that, when you say that you should not engage with the student activism or something or other, when faculties or the administration say that, they hide this question that why the students are doing the activism. If everything is good, they should not do any activities. They should simply study. Right? But this is not the case. So now if you see the places like IITs and IIMs, or the so-called business institutions, they don't have a student activism as such. Why there are suicide there? That means the students are unhappy there, or something going on there. And specifically, why the students from marginalized sections are committing suicide in the so-called primary institutions like IITs. They don't support student activism. Students there so-called busy in academic excellence. And not just the SS student, even the upper caste students also committing suicide in such institution. Now administration can simply say, oh, they are committing suicide just because of study pressure or academic pressure. But this is not the answer. This is simply an escape. I am saying that in social science institution, majorly you see the student activism, because there is at least these students are, because you only teach them in the classroom that what is injustice, how to fight against injustice. Now you expect them, once they come out from the class, you expect that if someone is facing injustice, you expect that student to just keep quiet. It is impossible. If you put some ideas in their head in the classroom, and later in outside the classroom, you expect them just to keep quiet. This is impossible. And unfortunately, in places like IITs, where suicide is rampant, their student, even after committing suicide, like for instance, if one of my classmates is committing suicide, I know that something is going inside me, but I keep quiet. Why? Because there are no ideas. This institution, as we know, mostly controlled by the Hindu upper caste. Right? Now these Hindu upper caste, they don't want any marginalized student to raise their voice against this authority or injustice. And therefore they give all these excuses. Now if you see most of the from JNU, even known professor from JNU, people like Abhijit Banerjee, who got a Nobel Prize. So, and again, there are so many professors. What I'm saying, did their study hamper because of doing activism in the campus? No. Because student activism is not just simply about saying that these are our demands and we fulfill the demand. It is also about the idea that I said. It is also about an ideas to believe in and to pursue further in the life. Now, this is a bigger question to the administration and also the bigger question to the faculty who are teaching in the class. That if they think the student activism is bad, then they should also think that how the administration or our pedagogy is bad. If because they are your students, if they are doing activism, that means somewhere or other you are involved in. So I believe this question or this saying that okay, if you do activism, then you will lose your academic excellence. This is I don't think this is true, because I have seen in my life, at least in JNU, I can say most of the student activists who were doing activism, they were equally good in their study. And I'm not saying those who were not doing activism only doing study that they were not good, they were also good. But I also seen that the student who did the student activism in JNU, they are not just simply good in academics, but they are also, I must say, good human beings too. Because if something happening bad in front of them, they will go and try to at least stop it. Unlike those students, those who are simply busy in academic, but if someone even dying in front of them, that is what is happening in IITs. If your classmate is committing suicide, you are simply keeping quiet, right? So what do you want? You want them. So basically, academic institution wants student to become a kind of a very selfish person. Like if something is happening, some injustice is happening around you, you simply keep quiet. If this is the goal of academic institution, then they are not academic institution. They need to be wiped out then, if they are creating this selfish human being in society. And that's what is happening. Okay, and that's what we see outside the middle class do. When they see that if some poor is getting harassed, we see the behavior of this most of this Hindu upper middle class behavior. They will talk all things on their dinner tables, right? They will talk about nation. They will talk about how their kamwali bai is a chore, how their auto wala is bad. They will talk about everything. So they have a contempt for all this marginalized community. So now academic institutions are saying, okay, you leave your humanity aside, become a selfish kind of person like a Hindu upper caste there outside. The way they behave, you also have to adopt their morality. If this is the case, then these academic institutions should completely stop this business of saying that we are creating a good human being and we are providing education. Then you are not providing education. You are simply just giving them skill. Okay, how to earn money. They call yourself, skill-based organization. Then you don't have any right to call yourself university or let's say, educational institution.